Yeah, even refusing to work for him is seen as betrayal. The fate some people suffered at the hands of El Mencho are worse than death. The final days of their lives were filled with immeasurable agony. The manner of their demise was sickening, and the details of how they died will make your stomach turn. In fact, it's safe to say when death eventually came for these men, it was an act of mercy. And if that's not brutal enough, El Mencho's hitmen have a nasty habit of posting these murders online. Let's explore the horrifying ways El Mencho's enemies were murdered online. Carlos Enrique Sanchez Martinez, otherwise known as El Cholo, was the leader of the Nueve Plaza cartel. Indeed, Mexico is home to numerous cartels, some smaller than others, all of them fighting over territory and smuggling routes. And if you're a small kingpin struggling against giants like El Chapo or El Mencho, your fate is pretty much sealed. In the case of El Cholo, it was even worse. He'd once been friends with El Mencho. His cartel was seen as a direct insult to the notorious drug lord. To understand why El Mencho was so angry at El Cholo, I must paint the whole picture for you guys. In short, El Mencho is the devil, plain and simple. Since the CJNG was formed in 2009, violence in Mexico has skyrocketed. They created a huge paramilitary army full of young, violent, psychotic killers. They equipped themselves with military weapons, including tanks and drones. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade. Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of El Mencho. And they glorified violence for the sake of violence. Go ask anyone who runs the most brutal cartel, no, who runs the most brutal criminal organization in the world. They will point to El Mencho and his CJN. Under his guidance, the organization has committed crimes that would make the skin of ISIS terrorists crawl. Because it's not so much what crimes they commit, it's how they commit these crimes. Kidnappings, extortion, and beatings have become a norm in a huge area of Mexico simply because the CJNG leader, El Mencho, fancies it. You live lying next to a body. You see how they kill people. You taste human flesh. You live terror. El Mencho is nothing short of a monster, and unfortunately, he's found many men like him, happy to inflict unimaginable pain on other people for their sick pleasure. Yeah, it's not about money anymore. It's about sending a simple message. You do not mess with CJNG. Fear is their currency. They occupy territories by throwing grenades and forcing people to abandon their hometowns. Aguililla! Cocho! Wounded! 73, Cocho! Now they're even targeting the government itself with nothing less than rocket-propelled grenades. The end goal? Power. They create this chaos to go and sit with a local politician and say, okay, do you want more or shall we negotiate? Needless to say, the DEA is very interested in putting an end to the CJN, along with the overwhelmed Mexican government. DEA has seen the number of investigations against CJN more than double over the last couple of years. However, El Mencho doesn't seem to care. According to a rumor, they once tried to buy belt-fed M60 machine guns in the US side note. If this sounds impressive or badass to you, it shouldn't. There's nothing cool about torturing, killing, and intimidating people into submission. El Cholo's death story should be enough to knock the taste out of your mouth. El Cholo met El Mencho while they both worked for the Millennial Cartel in the 2000s. Their boss was Armando Valencia Cornelio, aka El Maradona. When El Maradona was arrested, El Mencho worked hard to keep the cartel together. During this time, El Cholo was his right-hand man. Within a year, El Mencho, a former cop with military knowledge, reorganized the Millennial Cartel into the CJNG, Cartel Jalisco New Generation. This was going to be his brutal empire. El Mencho quickly became a dictatorial figure who didn't stand to hear no or even accept diverging ideas from a fellow CJNG member. Eventually, this led to a rivalry with El Cholo. You see, El Cholo was used to being El Mencho's most trusted man. He gave him advice and helped him whenever he needed an extra hand. Now, Mencho wanted to be the king of the world and rule with an iron fist. His inflated ego didn't allow friends around him anymore. So when El Cholo came to him with ideas for the CJNG, El Mencho hated this. He saw El Cholo as arrogant and not falling in line. Of course, El Cholo began resenting El Mencho for it. Why should he be a simple foot soldier all of a sudden? Sadly, El Cholo didn't realize just how far Mencho was willing to go to secure his position of power. El Cholo began carrying out assassinations without El Mencho's green light. But someone got word of this and decided to rat him out. The CJNG's financial operator, Marcos Hernandez, told El Mencho about this. Yeah, I forgot to mention. Cartels are a dog-eat-dog world. Many times, narcos kill felon narcos by snitching on them. This way, they're hoping to climb the cartel pyramid and become the kingpin's trusted servants. After hearing about the incident, El Cholo could have gone to El Mencho and asked for forgiveness. But he was even more furious. He killed Marcos Hernandez in broad daylight in his car. At this point, it was too late to repair whatever friendship was left between the two. El Mencho declared war on El Cholo. This is when El Cholo split from the CJNG and formed a smaller cartel, Nueva Plaza. He also took CJNG's head of logistics with him, Eric Valencia Salazar, aka L85. So, you see, the very existence of the Nueva Plaza cartel was an insult to El Mencho. Infuriated, El Mencho ordered a hit on El Cholo. But El Cholo knew his former boss quite well, which means he also knew the people he would send and how he would organize the ambush. The hit was a huge blow. You see, El Cholo was used to being El Mencho's most trusted man. He gave him advice and helped him whenever he needed an extra hand. Now, Mencho wanted to be the king of the world and rule with an iron fist. His inflated ego didn't allow friends around him anymore. So when El Cholo came to him with ideas for the CJNG, El Mencho hated this. He saw El Cholo as arrogant and not falling in line. Of course, El Cholo began resenting El Mencho for it. Why should he be a simple foot soldier all of a sudden? Sadly, El Cholo didn't realize just how far Mencho was willing to go to secure his position of power. El Cholo began carrying out assassinations without El Mencho's green light. But someone got word of this and decided to rat him out. The CJNG's financial operator, Marcos Hernandez, told El Mencho about this. Yeah, I forgot to mention. Cartels are a dog-eat-dog world. Many times narcos kill felon narcos by snitching on them. This way, they're hoping to climb the cartel pyramid and become the kingpin's trusted servants. After hearing about the incident, El Cholo could have gone to El Mencho and asked for forgiveness. But he was even more furious. He killed Marcos Hernandez in broad daylight in his car. At this point, it was too late to repair whatever friendship was left between the two. El Mencho declared war on El Cholo. This is when El Cholo split from the CJNG and formed a smaller cartel, Nueva Plaza. He also took CJNG's head of logistics with him, Eric Valencia Salazar, aka L85. So, you see, the very existence of the Nueva Plaza cartel was an insult to El Mencho. Infuriated, El Mencho ordered a hit on El Cholo. But El Cholo knew his former boss quite well, which means he also knew the people he would send and how he would organize the ambush. The hit was a huge blow. It ended with El Cholo killing the leader of the hit squad. Then, El Cholo formed an alliance with the mighty Sinaloa cartel. Now, they had the manpower and proper weapons to pose a real threat to CJNG. This was happening in 2017 when the murder rate in Mexico reached its historic peak, over 31,000 people. The huge rise in murder rates in the 2010s was all thanks to the CJNG, and the war declared on pretty much everyone else. The CJNG kidnapped and killed university students, confusing them with El Cholo's people. They set fire to public buses, blocked roads, and shot anyone they thought was a sicario. El Cholo fought back confidently, believing that the Sinaloa cartel had his back, so nothing could go wrong. Well, it did. In March 2021, the CJNG located and kidnapped El Cholo. First, they filmed him, asking him to talk about all the ways he had wronged CJNG. In his confession, he didn't implicate the Sinaloa cartel. He implicated the Mexico City police chief at the time, though. I'm here because I'm an enemy of CJNG. I met with Omar Garcia Harfuch in the federal district so he could give me his back. This is due to us being after the CJNG. And he did give me his full support. Talking to the police was a huge betrayal in the eyes of the CJNG. Omar Harfuch later denied El Cholo's claim that they never collaborated. Regarding a video in which a criminal kidnapped by other criminals refers to comments about me, I reiterate that we will not be distracted by false messages from criminals. My commitment to this society is firm, to fight crime to the last consequences. At the end of his confession, El Cholo addressed all those watching the video, urging anyone still supporting him to stop doing so and focus on their families so they wouldn't meet the same end as he was about to. Poor El Cholo knew what was coming for him, and he knew there was no escape. Of course, a quick bullet to the head would have been merciful, but the CJNG weren't going to do this. Instead, they kept him alive for days, inches away from death, and in excruciating pain. The CJNG filmed everything, including El Cholo's last hours alive. El Mencho Sicario shattered his legs into 1,000,000 pieces, cut off his toes, and broke his ribs. He was electrocuted, and his tongue was removed. Before or after his death, his eyes were gouged out too. It's safe to say El Cholo was begging for his death all 48 hours he spent in CJNG's torture chamber. On March 18th, this is the gruesome sight the authorities found on a bench in Lorien, Hidalgo, in a Jalisco tourist center. It was a body wrapped in plastic with 2 signs stuck to it using knives. One read, "The traitor El Cholo." On the same day, CJNG released an awful video showing his last days. The CJNG was once again delivering its main message: everyone should fear them. So how did the Sinaloa cartel respond? They said nothing, did nothing. Okay, what about his cartel, Nueva Cartel, and El Cholo's buddy Salazar? Same. Said nothing. Did nothing. El Mencho had promised everyone who betrayed him that he would send a message. El Cholo's death was received by everyone, hand-delivered, unmistakable, clear as day. Since then, no one has dared to cross El Mencho like El Cholo did. El Mencho did something that no previous cartel had done. He didn't make his rivals disappear. The Sinaloa cartel, for example, had a man called El Pozolero, or the soup master, who dissolved the dead bodies in acid and threw the remains in the desert. Of course, this meant it was murder for the police to find and identify the bodies. And as gruesome as the soup master may sound, this method is nothing compared to El Mencho's method. Dissolving bodies in acid was clean in comparison to what the CJNG does. El Mencho didn't care about privacy or avoiding the police. His cartel left heads of their victims on the street for people to see what happens if they betray the cartel. Bodies were strung up from bridges with banners saying hello to rival cartels and urging people not to join them.